Okay, so we want to start initiating the abdominal muscles, so specifically, right, our four main abdominal muscles. So rectus abdominis, which is right in the front. You can consider its anatomical job is essentially to pull the ribs down towards the pubis, so it does flex the spine. The external oblique, which part of its fascial network does cover the rectus abdominis. The external oblique's job is predominantly to create rotation and side bending, and if they do work together bilaterally, it does create some trunk or lumbar flexion. Below that, the internal oblique, which is going to have a similar function in terms of side bending and rotation to not make it too complex. And again, if they do fire together, it is going to create some lumbar flexion. Now, relatively speaking, lumbar flexion is also pelvic posterior tilt. So when you hear a lot of people talk about posteriorly tilting your pelvis, you are using these muscles to also help with that. And lastly, the transverse abdominis, which really does act kind of like the anatomical weight belt. And in all honesty, all of these muscles do. You can consider as they wrap around the abdomen, they help to control some of the outward pressure that the diaphragm and pelvic floor are creating when we are underneath a type of load that's attempting to either flex the spine, extend the spine, side bend, or rotate. All these muscles are essentially doing is receiving that internal intra-abdominal pressure and then trapping it and keeping it. So we're going to do a very simple and basic setup. A lot of the literature shows it really doesn't matter if your legs are straight or if your legs are bent to do this. The literature does show that if I'm on a physio ball, I do get a bit more benefit, but I can equally just do it from the ground as long as I'm influencing the breath and really kind of keying in on a forceful exhalation. So I'm going to grab my dumbbell. This could be a plate also. I'm going to hold this overhead. The instructions that you want to think to yourself is I'm going to first take a breath in. And now as I blow the air out, this dumbbell can only move in a linear pattern up, meaning the dumbbell is not going to come forward or the dumbbell is not going to come back, although back is a way to progress it. So I'm going to lift up forward, blow out as hard as I can as I raise the head and shoulder blades off the mat. The first initial part of the lift, a lot of EMG studies show, is going to help the rectus abdominis and external obliques to kick in. As I continue to force all the air out, the belly button will begin to drive down towards the spine, and that's essentially a cue that we give to fire the transverse abdominis. So if I combine them all together, where I get a small stretch, my lumbar spine is slightly extended, I'm going to now kind of semi-flatten the spine, lift, I'm exhaling at this point, and as all that air comes out, the spine can start to drop into the posterior tilt. Then I'm going to get the transverse abdominis at the end, and then again I'm going to let everything come down. So I'll do it one time in real time here. Come down and relax.